Here we go. Now, in opening today, I kind of opened a little bit already from what I mentioned in the prayer time, because unfortunately, we've recently seen quite a few new lifers have either loved ones pass away or have surgeries or other kinds of issues that are just kind of happening in our church family. And I know every time that I deal with a passing of a loved one, it brings back to me the memory of my dad's passing. And he passed away a little over 6 years ago now. And so I can come from the experience. That's where, to me, 2 Corinthians chapter 1 really speaks, because the way I can help in the time of that pain that you're facing in the right now, I remember that pain, and I remember what I was going through and stuff. And so I could tell you this, 6+ years later, there's probably about 360 days out of the year that I'm good. I don't even think about it. But there's probably about 5, give or take. There's about 5, probably the day that my dad died, his birthday, and some other thing. Those moments still hit over 6 years later, and you just kind of go through it, and you just kind of face it and deal with it. And see, the thing is, even in the first 12 months of his passing, when I thought about him, like almost every week and almost every day, I knew something that gave me hope. This is the thing that is beautiful as a follower of Jesus that we're going to walk through here, that even as we deal with the loved ones who have gone on, especially if we know our loved ones knew Jesus, there's this hope that we have. I knew my dad had given his life over to Jesus, and that one day I will see him again. Just as I know one day Jesus will return to earth and bring us all home with him to heaven. We call that return. Wait, hold on. Now, last time I checked, we are a little bit of a Assemblies of God Pentecostal kind of thing. All right? So I don't need you to be like hanky in it and stuff like that. I'm not looking for crazy stuff. But I think I just said, just as I know one day Jesus will return to earth and bring us all home with him to heaven. Okay. I'm just checking. Make sure my mic's on. It's good. I'm just checking, okay? Just checking. All right. You don't have to get too crazy. Don't get too wild on me. But we simply call that return the second coming of Jesus, and that taking us back with him, the blessed hope. If you don't know about that, this is the 16 doctrines or fundamentals of truth in the Assemblies of God. We are an Assembly of God church. I had a gentleman at a funeral yesterday when he heard that we're not Westside Assembly of God by name. We're New Life Community Church. Now, he was kind of, are you still Assemblies of God? I'm like, yeah, it's still Assemblies of God, just a name change. And just kind of helping him through that process. But so this is, I think it's number 14 in here of the 16, blessed hope. And the reason why it's number 14, they just go kind of like in chronological order of what events have taken place, all right? So don't worry about that. It's not like it's the 14th best doctrine or something. All right, I just got to keep going. Paul made a point early on in the letter to the Thessalonians to tell them to hold on to that hope, the blessed hope. Hold on to Jesus' return. And he said that when others saw the Thessalonians, when he saw them, their faith was so incredible. It was faith to the hilt. First week we looked at it. That they were welcoming Jesus into their heart, turning away from sin. And the third thing was they're looking for Jesus' return. The third thing that noted their incredible faith was they were looking for Jesus to come back. In fact, the idea or the hope of Jesus' return pulsated through the entire early church. They truly believed Jesus would come back in their lifetime. They truly believed Jesus would come back in their lifetime. Let me ask you, do you truly believe Jesus will come back in your lifetime? Because they believed Jesus would come back in their lifetime, this is what they did. They lived their lives with that hope at the forefront of their faith. They shared the good news with others with this hope. They suffered persecution with this hope. They gave generously with this hope. They served one another with this hope. Everything centered around the hope of Jesus' return, and they're going to heaven with him when he came back. That's the early church. The early church was centered on that hope. And Thessalonica was one of the spots that screamed it. That they owned it. That everyone around them was like, wow. I know it's funny, I was like started studying Galatians because we're going to be doing Galatians in like September in our Becoming series. And Galatians, Paul has a completely different take on the church in Galatia than he does with Thessalonica. Galatia, he's like, dude, what's up with you? Thessalonica, he's like, wow, what's up with you? Right? Same thing, but with a different perspective. He's like, and so I just was reminded of that yesterday as I was just kind of prepping and doing the beginning study of that. Let me ask you, what are you centered on? What is your hope centered on? What is your hope? Can I get real? Is your hope centered on the next government stimulus? Hey, I didn't mind receiving a stimulus. To be honest. I look at it as God blessed me with that money to get a new deck, to get some plumbing stuff fixed, to get some windows wrapped, and to give extra. And I'm telling you, I'm like, okay, thank you. I didn't look at government, you're giving to me. I said, okay, God, you're giving it to me. What do you want me to do with it? All right, because my hope isn't on the government, thank goodness. But my hope isn't in the next presidential election either. Is your hope in the next presidential election? Some of you are waiting for 3 years to happen. Some of you think the next 3 years is the best thing to happen, right? But don't, no, we're not, no, that's not what it's about. Some of you, your hope is centered on the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Do I believe life begins in the womb? You better believe it. Actually, if you get deep into Scripture, I think it happens even before that. Some of you, is your hope centered on the end of systemic racism? If for some of you, is your hope on canceling the cancel culture? Or is your hope centered on the return of Jesus? What is your hope centered on? Is it centered on not just the hope, it's got to be centered on the hope of salvation through faith in Jesus. Starts there. And then that my hope stays on that, because I got to hope that salvation in Jesus actually works. My hope is in Jesus, that salvation through him, my faith, so you're saved by grace through faith, right? So it's nothing that we do. He did it. And then we continue and say, okay, I'm going to live my life. I have hope in him, so I'm going to live my life this way, knowing that he's coming back one day. I want the hope in him. I need the hope in him. And I got to be, because I'm a human. If you haven't figured that out, you're a human. Everybody who leads you is human on earth, and they're going to fail you if they haven't failed you. If I haven't failed you yet, you just haven't been here long enough. Because I'm going to fail you because I'm human. I've been here for over almost 15 years now, and I have failed some of you more than once. Not because I've tried to fail you, not because of anything other than I'm human. And so when we look to humans to answer our problems and give hopes, we fall short of that. But I give my hope into the one who lived the perfect life. I give my hope to the one who died for me and who's coming back. My hope is in him. And when my hope is in him, then I can look at all that I face completely differently. Actually, this idea of hope was so important to Paul. So important that he made the hope in Jesus' resurrection and eventual return, one or both, something he addressed in every single letter we find in the New Testament except for one. That was Philemon. It's only one chapter, so, just to let you know. So it's no surprise Paul then addresses the hope that we're talking about at the end of chapter 4 and into chapter 5. So it's kind of interesting. Remember, I was going to do all of chapter 4 last week, and then I can't do it. Then chapter 4 actually connects to chapter 5, so I'm back on track with my... Anyways, okay, you guys don't care, but I care. I liked it. Like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, God. Cool. I took time this week. I want to say this. We're not going to look at verses 11 and 12 of chapter 4. The deeper dive in your Facebook group, on our New Life family group, I did. I went deeper into that, and I encourage you guys to check that out. It does address it because those two verses do set up what we're coming into on verse 13. So here's verse 13. Verse 13 says, "And now, dear brothers and sisters, we want you to know what will happen to the believers who have died, so you will not grieve like people who have no hope." I think it's important to note what Paul doesn't say as much as what he does say here. He does not say, don't grieve. Please catch that. He does not say, don't grieve. He says, don't grieve like people who have no hope. So here's what we need to do. We need to learn how to grieve with hope. We need to know how to grieve with hope. So dealing with our loved ones who pass away, whenever they pass away, we especially, okay, so first of all, if we know they know Jesus, this is where we can grieve with hope so easily. But if you have a loved one who doesn't know Jesus, this should push you to tell them about Jesus so that you can grieve their loss with hope. You can grieve them not here with hope. It is a hard thing to do, is to grieve someone who doesn't, that you weren't sure if they knew Jesus or not. That's hard. But I also know that we don't know what goes on in their mind at the moment before they're passing. Who knows what happens? Because if a criminal on the cross can give his life to Jesus at his cross, then God can do it in just boom, moment. So we grieve with hope. All right? Grieve with hope. That's important. Now, side note on loss. We must learn to deal with and grieve things we lose, not just lives that are lost. Okay, just a quick side note. Sometimes it's relationships or friendships that change. Sometimes it's moving to a new place. Sometimes it's getting a new job. Because you got to forget, what we forget sometimes is that new means there's an old. And the old, sometimes you have to grieve stuff that you never thought you need to grieve. You go through that process of change. I think I've said this, I know I've said to the staff, I actually have to grieve the way I have pastored the past 14 years. Because I can't pastor that way. We've made a next chapter of new life, and I can't pastor that way. And so I've had to learn in this last 6 months this new way of pastoring. I've been pastoring for over 20 years, and so much of it here, over 22 years, I've been a pastor, and I had to learn how to pastor new when I went from being a youth pastor in Las Vegas to a senior pastor here. The two don't, that doesn't work. In a lot of ways, it doesn't work. But then now the next step is pastoring. I wasn't pastoring, and this is, you guys might be thinking this is because Garth's not here. I got to see Garth yesterday. It was so cool to see him yesterday at Sister Philippe's funeral. We gave each other hugs. It was good. I'm talking about pastoring a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-generational, holy church. I've never done that. To pastor that type of church, I have to pastor differently. That's the difference I'm talking about. That's the grieving I'm going through. And it's okay because I'm excited about what's ahead and what's next. So all kinds of loss. It's not just when loved ones pass away. It's all kinds of loss when that occurs. Grieve with hope, not without it. We're only on one verse. Man, I am in trouble. I am in trouble today. Verse 14 reminds us of that hope. Here's verse 14. For since we believe that Jesus died and was raised to life again, we also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him the believers who have died. That's why we can have hope. They're coming back. They're coming back. He's coming back and they're coming back. If you didn't know this, hope has a name. His name is Jesus. Come on. Our hope is that we will not just see Jesus, but that we will also see the loved ones who followed Jesus in this life too. And that's a hope worth having. You need to have that hope. So real quick, you're thinking, how are you going to go through as much as I'm giving you? Because this next part will help me. Paul goes over the next few verses in Thessalonians of what happens to Jesus followers once he returns. So if you die before Jesus returns, or one of your loved ones has passed away and Jesus hasn't returned yet, at least we hope he hasn't returned because we're still here. So here it is. Verse 14 through 17 tells us this. If you die before Jesus returns, you're returning with him. All right? You will meet Jesus before the living do. That's kind of cool. I would come now, Jesus, before I die. I'm fine with that. But if I do die, I get to see Jesus before the living do. So, all right. You will raise from the grave. No, I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea. I don't want to even think, because like Shammy watches Bones, that one show, and if it's too long, if it's been a long time, what do you look like coming out of the grave? I don't know. We'll just move on. You get a new body in heaven anyways, so maybe that's how it happens. I don't know. I'm not going to go into that. That's different. You will meet the living with Jesus in the air. Isn't that cool? You're going to be in the air. No, seriously, that's going to be cool, right? Now, if you're alive when Jesus returns, this is your setup, all right? I do think right now that's where we're set up really close to. You will hear a shout from Jesus. I wonder what it's going to be. Right? Is it going to be like an individual shout, like, hey, Matt! Right? Is that going to be that? Or is it just going to be like, I'm here? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a shout, though. That's what Scripture says. Verse 16 says, shout from Jesus. And not just a shout from Jesus, then the archangel, is that Michael or is it Gabriel? Archangel. Do you know? It's Michael. I asked because it's Gabriel. By the way, Gabriel came all the way from Elkhart to play drums for us today. So thank you, man. Thank you. So that's the church working as the church, by the way. Just so you know, that's cool. So, all right, so you'll hear the voice of the Archangel Michael, according to Gabriel, and you will hear a trumpet call from God. So I don't know, again, does Jesus have the trumpet, or is it Father God, or is the Holy Spirit? Don't know, not going there. And then you'll meet the resurrected Jesus and the resurrected people in the air. Now I just wonder, is that like going to be like literal, like we're all up in the air, or is it going to be like the clouds hide us? Or are people going to like, oh my goodness, like that's crazy. Aliens are real. I mean, right? I mean, what's that going to be like? But that's just, I want you to have this hope. This should give you hope and this anticipation of Jesus' return. This is what the Thessalonians had. They had this hope that if I die, I see Jesus before you. If I die, I meet him in the air and I'll see you there too. I mean, there's just this excitement about Jesus' return that they do stuff with it. They just don't sit back and go, anytime, Jesus. No, they get so excited. But here's what happens to whether you're alive or dead when Jesus returns. You'll be with him forever. Come on. Oh, love it. I love it. Whew. Oh, man. So we could end there, and we're not going to, because chapter 5 continues this. Chapter 5 continues this talking about Jesus' return and opens with how and when this all happens. And so I decided to continue this message. So verse 2 and 3 of chapter 5 say this. For you know quite well, so verse 1 actually kind of says, hey, so you know all when and where this is going to happen. It's kind of like setting up the next verses. This is how it happens. For you know quite well that the day of the Lord's return will come unexpectedly like a thief in the night. When people are saying everything is peaceful and secure, then disaster will fall on them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begin. And there will be no escape. Paul uses two illustrations. I'll be real brief with these two illustrations, but two illustrations, the thief in the night. Any thief in the night, it's going to come unexpectedly. Have you ever heard of someone, like they have a robbery take place and they talk to the police and say, well, the thief actually called me, let me know, wanted to see if I was home, and then they text me when they were coming, and so we opened the door and let them in, right? I mean, nothing like that. When a thief comes in the night, you're not expecting it. Like if you hear a noise in your house, and you think just maybe that's someone in your home who's not supposed to be in your home, you like find whatever weapon you can. I used to sleep with a 9-iron next to the bed. I don't even know why, but I did that for a little bit. There was a little bit where I had like a 9-iron. I was just like, hey man, you come and I might slice again. So, anyway, so you become like this like if someone comes to your house, right, you're ready. So we're ready for a thief to come, even though we don't want a thief to come. That happens unexpectedly. Or how about labor pains? They come suddenly. And every lady who's ever had a baby would be like, amen. They come suddenly. And some of you are like, you want to go through the whole feeling the labor, and others are like, give me the shot, give me the drug. I don't want to. And so... because before that drug, labor pains you're feeling the labor pains. And we watched a video just the other day of this lady, she gave birth. They didn't show the whole thing, but gave birth in her car. And the husband's driving to the emergency room, and he's, this is their third kid, so they're handling it really well. I mean, he's handling it really well, but he had to help his baby come out. And it's like, wow. Bailey, when Bailey came, we first had, Braxton Hicks, false labor pains. Well, not we. Sorry. Just saying. Let me correct myself. Shammy had false labor pains. I watched. Because that's all you can do is watch, right? I mean, that's all right. It's like when you're a sports fan, right? Man, we beat them. No, you didn't. You didn't do anything. That's why guys say we when it comes to. Anyways, I love you, babe. You're awesome. So we had Braxton Hicks, false labor, went one time with the false labor. We didn't know. She didn't know. Doctor says, no, that was just false labor pains. And I do remember, I don't remember how many times maybe it was only twice with the labor pains, or one was Braxton Hicks and then it was a real deal. But we were thinking the next time we went, it was like, oh, messed up again. It's just Braxton Hicks. And I'm feeling bad for her because, it's her, not me. So, but then they're like, you're staying. I'm like, oh, game on. It's happening. Now, Savannah, on the other hand, tried to come like way too early. And so they were like, they were able to stop her from coming. And then when it was time where she could come, she's like, nah, I'll come when I want to, like 3 weeks later than when she could have come. And so like, thanks, Savannah, appreciate that. Love you, girl. So the whole point is all of that suddenly happens, right? Thief, unexpectedly. Labor pains, suddenly. These illustrations of suddenly, you got to understand this. We who are Jesus followers should not be caught by surprise because we are so contrastly different than those who don't know Jesus. So you shouldn't be caught unexpected. Something unexpected happened to you, and it shouldn't be suddenly for you. Because we're so different. Now, I want to show you that difference so clearly in Scripture. Verses 4 and 5 says this, but you aren't in the dark about these things, dear brothers and sisters. What things? The thief thing and the pregnancy thing. You won't be surprised when the day of the Lord comes like a thief. For you are all children of the light and of the day. We don't belong to darkness and night. Do you see the contrast? This is why we as followers of Jesus should look, act, think, and be so differently than those who don't know Jesus. Because we're light and of the day, not night and of the darkness. See that contrast? Such a contrast. We are light and darkness. They cannot be more different than each other. How different are you from those who don't know Jesus? How bright is your light in the darkness? And so, can you get these lights too for me? And go underneath the balcony too. I don't know how well I can get dark in here. It's not a Sunday night, so we're going to keep messing with these lights. So I get it as dark as I can. And this is me. I'm a light in the darkness. Can you see me? Not my face, but can you see my light? Those of you who have your phone, turn on your light. Those who have phones, online, you do this in your home. Turn off all your lights and then turn on your phones. Just, not that it's like crazy light in here, but I can see you all. I can see you in the darkness. I see where you're at. I like how Sean is like going like this. Be careful, because that could be a scary look. Some of you do that, right? So, but you see, I see you. You see me. We stand out. We stand out. We are light in a dark world. We stand out. Go ahead and we can start working on getting all the lights back on. And we are light. And I just want you to see that and recognize we are light in the dark world. You have to, that visual knows me. If I'm at Walmart and I see you and I don't know you, but you're a follower of Jesus, there should be something that somehow we, what's up with just the difference? Maybe it's the way you handle the employees. Or maybe the way you handle another customer. Hey, how do you walk through that? What are you looking like? Now here's the truth. If bright light then becomes focused light, that means if all our lights get focused in onto one thing, do you know what light does when it gets focused? It can start a fire. Right? You take light and you focus it in on something. I've been watching Survivor seasons from the past. And this one particular one, they had like this like scope thing so they could see. And this girl was like, I wonder. She took that glass out and they put it when the sun was shining through it and they started a fire. She focused the light somewhere and she started a fire. What if we focused our light on something? And this is what you need to focus your light on. Focus it on hope. What if we all focused on hope? What if we all focused, and I'm specifically, the hope of Jesus' return? What if we were like the church in Thessalonica? What if we were like the Thessalonians and we had our focus on hope? Our focus on hope. What would happen? We would become like the early church. We would share the good news with others because we're focused on hope. We would suffer persecution, but focused on hope. We would give generously and be focused on hope. We would serve one another sacrificially, focused on hope. Everything would center around being focused on the hope of Jesus' return and our going to heaven with him one day and taking with us as many people as possible. What it looks like is hope to the hilt. Hope to the hilt. Hope to the utmost degree, as much as possible. Let's take as many people with us to heaven as we can. And it happens with a focused hope, a focused light on one thing. I end with this this time. Pastor Chris, you want to come up because we are going to do communion. Ivan Ellis, who helps lead our kids in elementary, whenever he's leading, he always asks me who's preaching. And it's when he knows it's me, he just knows he has more time in the back. So we've kind of joked about it, but he asked me yesterday. So we'll finish this up in this. There's one key to having this hope to the hilt. There's one key to having hope to the hilt, and it's found in 1 Thessalonians 5, 6 through 8, and I underlined it to help you see it. So be on your guard, not asleep like the others. Stay alert and be clear-headed. Night is the time when people sleep and drinkers get drunk, but let us who live in the light be clear-headed, protected by the armor of faith and love, and wearing as our helmet confidence of our salvation. We need to learn how to be clear-headed. The idea of being clear-headed, the idea of being on guard here is not just being watchful, but being vigilant. And vigilant means, and it'll pop up here, being alertly watchful, especially to avoid danger. So let's stay alert, watching for Jesus' return. And let's stay alert, watching our world so we can avoid danger. But let's be clear-headed and focused in on that hope. And watch as we share the good news. We deal with persecution, because if you haven't had it, it's coming. But we give generously, and not just of our finances, but of our time and of our talents and our gifts and abilities. But then we also learn how to serve sacrificially in our home, in our church, in our community. And we learn how to do these things in such a way that our light is focused in on one thing. Jesus is coming back. He's coming back pretty soon. I think we're like near full term when it comes to labor pains. I think we're like full term. So I got a question for you. Are you just going to go through life, or are you going to focus your light on hope? Are you going to focus on hope and do things that God has called you to do? He's waiting for you to do. There are individuals who will come to know Jesus only if you go to them. And the same for me. There are individuals only I can reach. So will we go? Will we do what we need to do? That's the question. Close your eyes. Let me just ask you a couple questions here today. And finishing, do you need hope? Maybe you're here and you just need hope. Can I tell you again, hope has a name. It's Jesus. Jesus is here. Maybe you don't need Jesus because you already have Jesus, but maybe you need to fill up your hope to the hilt. Maybe you need more. Maybe do you need to start looking for ways to shine your light brightly? Maybe you've hid your light under a bushel. That's right, someone said no. No, we don't do that. Do you need to get with others and make your light more focused with them? May we just start a fire in Grant County. May we start a fire here at New Life with focused light, focused on the hope of Jesus' return. May we live just differently because we're focused on the return of Jesus. I want to be like the Thessalonians because they were known all across their known world because of their faith, and their faith was so connected to Jesus' return. They lived differently. They act differently. They were just different. They were lights in the dark world. Let that be us. If you're here and you need hope, you need to shine brighter than you have before, you just need Jesus, you just raise your hand and online just say, that's me in the comments. I know I did a bunch of things, but just say, that's me. I'm somewhere in there. Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand today. Say, I need more hope. I need to put my hope on him. I need to have focused hope. I got to put my attention on him. I'm going to grieve with hope. I'm just hope, 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 hope. Let hope be what resonates in you today. On a scale of 1 to 10, evaluate the level of hope in Jesus' return that you have. Shine brighter and raise that number to a new level. And if you think you're a 10, then make it 11. Just make the scale bigger, all right? There's your challenge. Here's the questions to take with you, the conversation questions to have this week. Where would you say your hope is centered on most days, and why? With a high hope in Jesus' return. And what's one thing you can do this week to have hope to the hilt? New Life, I love you. I'm so grateful to be your pastor, to lead you here and to serve you here. May we have an incredible week focused on hope and watch what God does. And parents of teenagers, we'll see you here tonight as we kick off our summer of momentum, and we'll have a great time with them in the gym, 6 o'clock. All right? Take care. We'll see you throughout the week. Thanks for coming.